Hey guys, I hope you're all doing great. If you're playing the Call of Duty MW4 beta on PS5 and you're looking for the best settings for your aim, movement, graphics, and especially hearing enemy footsteps more clearly, in this video I'm going to go through all the settings I personally use, step by step. So without wasting any time, let's jump straight into the settings. First, let's start with sensitivity. In my opinion, a sensitivity between 1.30 and 1.65 is a really good range to work with. Personally, I play on 1.50. And since I've been using this sensitivity for quite a while, it feels like the best and most comfortable option for me. But I definitely recommend trying a few different values and finding the sensitivity that works best for you. You want something that lets you turn around quickly, while still giving you good control when tracking enemies. Next, let's talk about button layout. I personally play on default, but if you want to make your movement and reactions a little faster, definitely give Bumper Jumper Tactical a try. It might feel a little weird at first, but once you get used to it, it can really help you during gunfights. Now let's talk about controller vibration. I highly recommend turning it off. I know some people like playing with vibration enabled, but when the main goal is having more precise aim, I personally feel like turning vibration off gives me better control and removes unnecessary distractions while aiming. Now we're getting into one of the most important parts of the settings, controller dead zone. For left stick min, I recommend lowering it as much as possible. Personally, I have mine set to 0. For right stick min, lower it as much as you can without getting noticeable stick drift. My controller has a very small amount of stick drift, but I'm okay with it, so I can even run this at 1. So there isn't really one perfect number for everyone here. Just lower it until you find the lowest value you can use, without the stick drift becoming annoying. For left stick max, I recommend somewhere between 65 and 80. Personally, I use 75 and it works really well for me. This setting can help with your movement and can also have a positive effect on rotational aim assist. However, I wouldn't recommend lowering it too much. If you go much lower than around 60, your movement can start feeling strange or harder to control. For the L2 and R2 button dead zones, I always set them to 0. This helps make sure your trigger inputs are registered as quickly as possible without any unnecessary delay. Now let's move on to aim. Go into the aim advanced settings. For these options, I use the following setup. The first option goes on instant, the second option goes on assist, and the third option goes on dynamic. And of course, make sure target aim assist is turned on. Now let's move over to movement. For sprint assist, I recommend tactical sprint assist. Corner slice is completely personal preference. I personally have mine turned on, but if you feel like it gets in your way, you can absolutely turn it off. For slide, dive behavior, make sure you set it to hybrid. If you're not used to hybrid yet, it might feel a little strange at first, but I definitely recommend giving it some time and getting used to it. Slide maintained sprint should also be turned on. For tactical sprint activation, set it to single tap run. Overall, these settings can help make your movement feel faster and smoother, especially during close range fights. Now let's move on to combat. For dedicated melee weapon activation, I use press melee. It makes melee activation faster, and personally I just prefer how it feels. Alright, now let's talk about graphics. Unfortunately, on PS5 we don't have nearly as many graphics options as we do on PC, so our options are a little limited. But there are still a few important settings that we can change. First of all, if your monitor or TV supports 120Hz, make sure you enable 120Hz. For gamma and brightness, I recommend somewhere between 50 and 60. Now, under the quality settings, turn world motion blur off, turn weapon motion blur off, turn world depth of field off, and turn weapon depth of field off as well. For Fidelity FX CAS, I turn it off and I set CAS strength to 90. For on-demand texture streaming, you can choose between optimized and minimal. This one really depends on your internet connection and your setup, so try both options and see which one works better for you. Now let's move over to view. For FOV, I recommend somewhere between 110 and 120. Try a few different values and see what feels best. A higher FOV gives you more peripheral vision, but it can also make enemies appear smaller on your screen, so this really comes down to your playstyle and personal preference. For first-person camera movement, definitely set it to minimal, which is 25%, and for third-person camera movement, also set it to minimal, 25%. The goal here is to reduce unnecessary camera movement as much as possible, so you can stay more focused on your aim during gunfights. Now we're getting into one of the most important sections for multiplayer, audio. If your main focus is multiplayer and hearing enemy footsteps more clearly, there are a few important settings here. Set gameplay music volume to 0, dialogue volume somewhere between 20 and 30, effects volume to 100, and cinematic music volume to 0. Of course, these settings are mainly for multiplayer. If you're playing the campaign or story mode, keeping the music and dialogue higher can give you a much better cinematic experience. For audio mix, I personally use headphones, and I feel like I can pick up enemy footsteps more clearly with it. But definitely give home theater and studio reference a try as well, and see which one sounds better with your headphones or audio setup. Now let's move over to interface. There are two really important options here that I recommend turning on: server latency on and packet loss on. With these two options enabled, you can see your connection status and network performance directly on your screen. This can be especially useful if you feel like you're experiencing lag or you're hit. Registration feels a little strange. Now let's move on to readability. Under color filter, I use filter 2, set color filter target to both, and set world color intensity to 100. These settings make the image look clearer and easier for me to read. But this section is definitely personal preference. So try a few different options and see what looks best for you. Now let's go into gameplay HUD. The safe area, make it as small as possible so your HUD takes up less space on the screen. And finally, let's talk about the crosshair. Under crosshair lines, go to crosshair color. The color is completely up to you. Just choose whichever color is easiest for you to see against the different environments in the game. Personally, I'm perfectly comfortable with orange, so that's what I use. And that's it, guys. Those are all of my recommended PS5 settings for the Call of Duty MW4 beta. Obviously, these settings aren't going to feel exactly the same for everyone, especially when it comes to sensitivity, Deadzones, and FOV. It really comes down to your playstyle and what you're used to. So I recommend trying these settings exactly as I showed you, playing a few matches with them, and then adjusting them based on how they feel for you. I'm Aresh, and I really hope this video helped you guys out. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like button. And if you want to support the channel and give me some extra motivation, make sure to subscribe. Now go play, have fun, and enjoy the game. And if these settings helped you out, let me know in the comments which setting made the biggest difference for you. Love you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Take care, and bye.